got a little crazy, and you know what? It's actually worked out better. We can do it right now. So if you need a reprieve from the shit show that is our presidential debate, come join us.
Yeah,
and that's all I'm going to say about that. Yep. So Lovecraft Country episode, I am like, I don't even want to say this. I don't want to say hands down because I like watch the next episode is going to beat it. But I'm sorry. Right now, this is my favorite episode. Like this was just amazing. I loved everything about this episode. I loved Hippolyta's journey.
Yeah.
Right. And there's some other, and I love the depth that they got into. And so I won't get into all of it. We're going to talk about it. There's one specific one that I know we're going to get into that I just can't wait to have the discussion. So loved the episode. I loved everything about Hippolyta. I also love what they're doing. Again, I keep complimenting on this, but they bring up a storyline, they close it the next episode, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, is Montrose maybe gay? Next episode, yes, he's gay, right? When is Tick going to find out? Here we go. Tick finds out. So yeah.
When are Lee and dang it, Ruby gonna have their confrontation over like what's going on?
Yeah.
It started this time, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they don't
so I love that. So what are y'all like? Just high level thoughts. Would break down the episode for us.
Can I say what I'm doing first?
Go for it.
Okay. First off, I was interested in the title. I am, that number one, you've got I am David Lee. And I was like, heck yeah, David Lee. But in the sense of, English nerd, I'm always looking for the literary connections. Mm-hmm. And in the Bible, when Moses asks who he's speaking to at the burning bush, God says, I am, and so like that moment of I am, and they work it into the I am Hippolyta, and just that throughout of who is the lady with the killer fro that is taking Hippolyta on this whole journey, what all the divine presence kind of connections that come from it's just really cool.
Okay.
I mean, for me, with Hippolyta's journey, I was thinking about the connection to right now and how I feel like for a while, Black women in particular, just in the recent past, have been feeling like, I'm not thinking anymore. I don't matter anymore. And I just felt a lot of that during her journey, just kind of this is what I did and I'm not doing it anymore. And so that was something that came out for me. Another thought I had about the episode that I wondered if it's gonna link up somewhere is with the dream that Letty had and the getting sick over tasting and I'm thinking, Tick is in this bloodline, right? And Letty has been so important for some reason, even though she doesn't seem connected to it. And if she is indeed with child, is this a connection to what's needed for this modern day finding the book and, all of those things. So,
right.
Well, and
so those are two things that came up for me.
One other thing that just kind of smacked me in the face as you were talking, think about the Black women journeys going on in this show. All right, think about Letty in episode 3 and the baseball bat, and just she is the badass, right? She's discovering who she is through these adventures and confrontation, and then you've got Ruby in her episode, who starts to get a deeper understanding of being a Black woman through her metamorphosis into a white woman, right? And she's more comfortable in her own skin after seeing, white people are crazy. Like that whole line where
high level, you're in the details.
High level. And then, sorry, I'm thinking high level as in like major concepts. And then Hippolyta, who it just that especially the arc. Well, no, all of it when she is the cabaret dancer and what she learns and that realization of I just want to kill white people, right? And then next thing we know, she's in this ancient Greece setting and she's training to be not just mentally tough but physically tough as well. And just this whole arc of her becoming who she's supposed to be and just watching, I don't know, the black women in the story, watching them become who they are supposed to be. It's been kind of awesome so far.
So I like that. There's so much to this episode, right? So I want to. I'm going to try and start from the beginning I can, and we'll keep going through, right? So, so I want to talk about Letty, Erica. I like the connection with Tick and the whole child. I believe she is pregnant. But I saw a couple of interesting things, and I haven't had a chance to go back and watch it again, but I will. But one, so she has the same dream as Tick, right? So she's running through chasing the ancestor. But here's the thing that I thought was interesting. So she stops the same way Tick stopped, and then like she grabs the belly, shows the Phillips pregnant. But what I noticed is when she caught on fire, the fire started from her belly, and that was it. That caught me because I was like, it was almost like the child was starting the fire, right? And so I don't know. I wondered what that was about, or if it could have just been the shot, right? It happened really quickly, and I was just kind of like, huh. And then again, I love that they went straight to it, right? So they didn't take long enough for them to talk about the fact that they're having the same dream. Of course, obviously, she left out the part that she was like, yeah, I was pregnant in the dream, but whatever. But I do think that is almost like in the Twilight movies, how the connection between who was the dude? Jake, I think, was the wolf, and Bella wasn't the fact that it was supposed to be them. It was that he was connected to her daughter, right? And so I think the same thing with like Letty and Tick. Not to, because I'm loving the whole Letty and Tick thing. Not to diminish their relationship, but I think the connection is important, even stronger because of that. It's this connection to the child that would be born or whatever. So I thought that was interesting. The other part, going with Letty and the connection, why I do believe that she is pregnant, other than the fact that it was the garlic thing, she felt like she was nervous. When she walked into the room where Hippolyta was,
I'm trying to get my eye. I'm like, nobody can see that there's a bug flying around the room. Erica's just having her moment of lashing out.
When Letty walks into the room where Hippolyta was playing with Ori, but and again, this is what I feel like I caught. It lit up when she walked into the room.
Yeah.
And so I thought, right? So I thought maybe that was. So I don't know if it was, left there and it was like, I don't know. I just felt like when she walked in the room, it looked like it lit up when she walked in, and then she looked at it, made the call, and all this stuff, whatever. So I definitely felt like there's this connection with Letty and this unborn child, and this kind of supernatural pull with that. And so I do think it's going to be like a missing piece and continue that link with Letty into this story and connection into it, which kind of also explains, I think, some of so we see in the next episode, like she's in a church, she's praying, and it seems like they bring up another discussion again between her and Tick, how she feels like, hey, this stuff is evil, right? Like she's starting to be like, hey, we should pull away from this. I think the fact that she is accepting the fact that, okay, you in it now. Before it was just with Tick and you love Tick, but it's like, it's me, Tick, and maybe he don't know about like,
yeah.
So, yeah.
And his Korean nine-tailed lover that is gonna pop up somewhere somehow. Yeah. We're not done with her yet, Gia. So
I'm just imagining like them walking out of a house door and Gia just pops up and Letty just gives her that look and Tick that look like.
And also Letty's hand.
Yes, because it always just appears out of nowhere.
So what else? Any other things that
I was wondering if you about to go to if you're going to Dad, why did his name just leave me right now?
Montrose.
Montrose.
So I don't have much for Montrose, right? I was like, it was the scene to me with him, and I don't even remember the guy's name, but his lover, boyfriend, whatever.
Sammy.
Is it Sam?
Yeah, Sammy.
Sammy. I felt like that was I felt like it was typical. Like,
you know, and I'm the whole series. How many times are you going to show us the scene with Montrose rejecting who he is,
right.
like him? Like, I'm kind of tired of it. We know he rejects himself.
Right.
Where are we going? Because nothing else in the series seems to keep repeating itself.
Right.
And then just personally, I get a little nervous when those scenes go, because we have come so far we have come so far and we haven't come so far, depending on where you are in the world. But we've come so far with acceptance, and people being able to be open, and love is love. And I cringe every time these scenes come on the scene, because I'm like, this is not, TV is farther than this now. But I have to remember, it's like set in the 50s and the 60s. So I'm like, okay. But I'm like, you don't have to hide no more, Montrose.
Right. And it's, I don't know, like that scene to me was very unlike anything else. Like from the time it started, I kind of knew everything that was getting ready to happen, right? So he's up there cooking. Montrose is there. I was like, okay, so you're going to see him cooking. He's going to say something about they're going to make a big deal of the fact that he stayed over. Clearly, this is the first thing for them. And then Montrose is going to do what Montrose does. He's going to go back to pushing away and being resentful. And, and then it was just dumb, like sitting down. Why do these grits this? And why? I'm like, dude, like, seriously? Like, this is just, like, so bad. And then, he gets upset. He leaves. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I was just like, okay. So that whole scene, I was just kind of like, all right, I get it. I get that it's the times. It's clearly, Montrose is struggling with this, right? He got his own trauma to deal with from his father, from just him accepting and trying to love himself and being okay with who he is, right? So I get that part. But to your point, Erica, I'm just kind of like, everything else is accelerating so fast that I'm like, and maybe it's too much to ask to say, like, okay, can we? I would just love you to just finally be accepting this, and like, I don't expect him to do a complete 180, but can we get some growth, right? And maybe that's him.
Even some of the storylines where we've done, but there's something you're finding out. Like, I wouldn't even care if he was still in the cycle, because that's real. Right. Some people, it does take a while, but for us to get a little bit more of Montrose having some moments of sharing with us why he's still in this loop. Yeah. I just don't even feel like I understand why he's still in the loop. We just keep seeing the loop. Because I know why Letty keeps telling these little white lies about, I ain't going to tell you I was pregnant. And it all seems to still have a purpose, even though she did it again. Tick, he went, and we know about the girl, but she don't know about the girl yet. But you can see why they don't know yet. I want to see I want to get some more of Montrose in his own space. Like, this is why I'm still looping with this. But
well, on that hand, Uncle George talked about it a little bit with how he took the brunt of all of their daddy's beatings, and so I think the simple answer, which is not simple at all, is just trauma. And he rejects who he is because it caused him nothing pain. He tried to beat anything that he thought was something out of Tick.
But my point is, Tick has talked about it. Tick has, like, we see Tick get mad about this every time. But Tick, they give him lines to where he's like, to express why he's still so mad. Montrose just keeps being a dick, and we just don't ever hear him like talking to his friends about, this is why I'm still upset about this. This is why I struggle with saying something, even though, so.
Yeah. I think we're going to see, a moment with him and Sammy, right? I could see a vulnerable moment coming up with him and Sammy, right? And really just kind of talking and sharing. At least I hope we do. it probably could have came in the last episode, but I think they were setting that more up to be the symbolic of him just kind of, well, one, the reveal, and then, some symbolism around him and his journey there. So let's fast forward to, we get to Letty and Ruby, right? So I was kind of excited at first. I was like, oh, okay, Tick and Letty going on an adventure. Let's do this. Let's get to St. Louis, right? So then I like the split, right? As she decides to stay and starts to again come back and address these issues with Ruby. And we I love Ruby's like half-assed, like, I kind of accept your apology, but not really. Like, well, in all my years, I never heard mom say I'm sorry, so I guess she not like her, like
not all the way like her.
Right, with her shades on, not looking at her. I was like, okay, but so I love that part because I love the reality and depth of their situation, right? I think for people who and I don't even know what the word is. I don't know if you call them blended families, or whatever. But it is what it is. When you grow up with families, when you got different daddies, right? There's all this kind of like little issues that come up, right? Because you kind of grow up and it's like, oh, like we're siblings, and then you find out it's like, well, we're siblings, but kind of like a half sibling, this and that, or whatever. And so like Letty and Ruby just have this whole thing where they have different fathers, right? There's a whole light skin, dark skin thing. There's the whole big girl, skinny girl. Like there's all these issues. Against them not being close, right?
Yes.
And so, I love how they go in and address all of it. So, I love this scene of again Letty trying to be vulnerable, trying to explain Ruby, in her way, knowing that she wants to connect with her sister, but at the same time, you could tell she, again, trauma, right? She's just been like, look, I done been through this with Mama, and you remind me of Mama, and I'd have been this with you.
Yeah.
So.
But what I think is really cool? I personally, in my own little storyline, feel like Ruby might finally understand why Letty kind of keeps some things close to the hip with what's going on, because now she's got this thing that she ain't telling Letty about.
Right.
So you know how people do that. There's a lot of pointing fingers about what you should have divulged and what you should have said, and then you find yourself in a situation going, okay, now I'm the one keeping something from you, and now maybe I kind of can empathize more with why you didn't tell me exactly what was going on. But I can't wait for them to dang on talk about it, because then they'll figure out they know they're both the same person.
Right. So
the interesting dichotomy between the two of them, Ruby is the rule follower and Letty's the rebel, right? Like that's when you were going through all the mirror images, just that stands out. And now Ruby, like, because I think about when she was so mad at Tamara for not being qualified enough to do the job. She is very much on the black people have to be perfect so that white people can't have anything that they can hold against us. And now she's finally got kind of her first secret that she's holding on to, her first thing that is kind of not for the light of day. And so maybe, she still spies on Letty later on in the episode.
Yeah.
But, maybe,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Maybe there's some, seeing eye to eye, like you were saying about,
so do you think that the writers are going to use this thing? So as Ruby's been brought into this on one side, Letty's already involved in the two, don't know. Do you think the writers are going to use that to bring them together, or be another thing that pushes them apart again? Right. I kind of see it both. The bleeding heart in me is like, I just want y'all to be sisters, right? Like I wanted to bring them together, but I kind of really feel like it's going to end up a thing that pushes them apart.
Well,
you know
what?
You make a good point, because at first I'm thinking, well, Christina gave Letty the money, so this has got to be coming together.
But Christina wants the orrery.
But then I think Christina wants everything that Letty and Tick are going after. Christina wants it for herself.
Right.
But she's got Ruby's, I think she's got Ruby's heart now.
Yeah.
Ruby's feeling for her situation. And
that whole,
it's probably going apart.
I said it with William's mouth, but it came from my heart thing. Like that. I think But is it real for Christina, or is it just all this long con?
Oh, so
to
can we
get
pause
the
right
aura?
there? Because all this white woman trust is like, listen, I hate, like, listen, I still have white friends, but like, they're the ones that, like, I know. But I mean, it just keeps happening time and time again. I mean, it's an issue where you can feel like, oh, okay, Ruby's trusting Christina, and Christina, I'm trusting Christina, and I'm like, she ain't about nothing. You got to keep one eye open with that one. So
Yeah,
Christina already got Letty and Uncle George shot because of her
that's what I'm saying.
shenanigans in episode 2.
So and that is interesting because I find it. I remember the scene where she was like, Ruby was telling her, "You need to tell me everything," and I don't know if it was this one or it was this one, because she was explaining to her how the potion worked with the two bodies, which again they had to be dead for the potion to work. So, so when she's explaining her that, I'm just like, why is Ruby so? I don't know. Everything that I've seen of her, my expectation was she would just be like, "I'm out." You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm done with all of this. Like, you were really William, all this stuff or whatever. But I started thinking about it, but she's still there. So there's something's attracted her. And I don't mean it like in a physical, something about all of this has attracted her to this, right? So even though she's angry, she wants to know, like, I'm like, it's one of those things like, you yelling at me, but notice you ain't leaving, right? Like, you calling me every name, but you ain't walked out the door. Like, you still here. Yeah. So that's why I really feel like Christine, like, I feel like these two teams kind of doing it. Christina's kind of pulling Ruby to her side. And I feel like I was going to set up is at the end, like, they're both going to get around this book or something or whatever. And Ruby's going to be basically Team Christina saying, well, we got to do all this stuff, that or whatever. Right. And it's just going to be this whole antithesis thing. And I think, I think Christina's means somewhat of the, hey, like, I was basically come up where I was told I wasn't good enough because I was a woman and this couldn't happen. And she's using that on Ruby like, well, you've always been told you're not good enough because you're black and you're a woman. So join me on this fight, on this quest to where we can do whatever we want, right? Shouldn't you be able to do this? Shouldn't you be able to do that, right? And I just, man, I'm convincing myself now. I really think they're going to set them up to just be on the other side.
And I love the modern day connection, man. Like, my entire timeline, like with RBG passing, I got all of my like black political female friends are like, hey, like, we've been in this fight, we've been doing this work, and now you got the white liberal women. It's like they just woke up again because RBG died. And it's like, we've been doing this. And so I just love the modern day connection still of like what's going on, even though no one could have foreseen that. And just kind of how this pattern repeats itself over and over again of, we've been over here saying this for forever, y'all, and now you want us to join your fight, but we've been fighting. So when I watch it, I see those connections every time. I feel like that's what I bring to this conversation.
Well, I definitely see them, and the biggest one the one that stood out the most for me, that was the most impactful, was the next thing I want to get into. Well, I mean, it's Hippolyta's whole journey, right? Like, and so I'm gonna go. Y'all hold on. I'm about to go super crazy with y'all because I'm telling you, this thing hit me. So she wakes up and has these little things in her arm. And the biggest thing that stood out to me was when she was the being comes in. First of all, that this being appeared to her as a black woman with an afro, right? Not saying that it wasn't a black woman, but the first time she saw them, they were in like a helmet or something like that. And so immediately I'm like, okay, is this the form that it took to connect with her, right? Or is this really their form, right? Because I'm like, these are some beings or whatever. Like, okay, so anyways, get past that part. But the part that hit me was when she was trying to figure out where she was and get out, and the being kept telling her, this is not a prison. You are not in a prison.
She was acting that way. Yeah.
Right. She assumed that she was in a prison, right? But the only way that she and how she ended up getting out of the prison was two things. She had to start thinking, right? So I took that as you're not a prison. And I'm telling you that this thing is what you've made it. You've made it a prison. Your mind has made it a prison, right? Like you just woke up and assumed it was a prison, and you've assumed some things, just like you've assumed some things about your life, which she later starts sharing about how she shrunk herself and these things or whatever. So her whole journey was her fighting the prison that society and everything else had put her into. And the only way she got out of it, right? When did she interact with the being and start traveling was like, she started thinking, right? So she was going around this and saying these things out loud and started taking things apart and things like that. And then the being said to her, like when she was, trying to escape and tried to attack it, like, who are you? Right? Say who you are. Say who you want to be, right? And she was like, what? Name it and you will be it. And the whole thing to me, I'm sitting here like, guys, I'm like chills. I'm like, oh my God, right? And then she yells out, right? I want to be dancing on stage, Josephine Baker, and then boom, she's there. And so to me, this thing started telling me, it was like, look, her whole journey, and I'm fast forwarding. I'm gonna come back because I want to make this statement. Her whole journey to me said, look, don't let yourself be imprisoned by the things that society and the norm will put you into, right? Because here are the consequences. And it goes back to the speech that the warrior was given, right? Oh, you have been free to take care of their children, free to work where they want you to free. Like, again, all these things about this is what has been led and told you. So you've walked into this prison. You are not really free, right? So she goes from liberating herself to being on stage. I also thought that it was important that, she was nude in the beginning of the scene, and you go to this place, like, because again, that's a freeing thing, like her body type, all these things or whatever. I'm telling y'all thought I was high and I was watching this. I was seeing all these things. I'm just like, this is crazy. So I'm gonna come back off this rant and so let y'all get into it a little bit. So, and there's more I want to get to because the her and Uncle George conversation. Oh my God, I got so much to say about that. But the whole arc to me was just like, the whole point is she connected with these other beings, and the reason why these beings were able to do all this is because until you free yourself of the things that you've allowed people to, the prison that you've allowed yourself and people to put you in, you will never be able to say who you are and see who you are. So that's what kind of took out of it. So I'm gonna let y'all go now.
So first thing I want to talk about is going back to before her, like as her journey was beginning, right? She finds the observatory.
Yeah.
Yeah. How come Hippolyta should have been a hidden figure?
That's what Jeremy said. Hippolyta is a hidden figure.
She's sitting there.
She really is.
The way that scene was shot, like Erica and I turned and looked at each other, and it was just like, that was awesome.
Like
with her doing all the calculations,
the lighting.
and the lighting and the ghostly figures, like on
it
the screen.
Well,
everything was really cool, but she was doing all kinds of crazy math and figures and everything, and I'm just like, that's the connection, right? That's why she's obsessed with space. They had to have that in mind when they had all of this arc going, that this is yet another tie-in to Black history and the women that work for NASA.
But I also told y'all from the beginning, she has always been telling us without saying it that she knew more about what George was doing. It was not just the man was going, and she's a traveler. I think you're like Dave. You're saying I think she might have put herself in more of that prison. Yeah, herself. I mean, George did say, "No, I got it," but their relationship never seemed to me like, "Woman, you stay home." Right. It was almost like they agreed that this is what they would do, but he was always fully aware of how smart and awesome she was. Yeah.
But at the same time, worried that something bad would happen to her, you know, and unintentionally dimming her light. Right. And she was voluntarily doing it to fit.
Right. Okay. We there. I'm sorry. I can't wait anymore. We got to jump into this. So, go. And here's the thing about it. So, first of all, I loved the scene with Hippolyta and George in this alternate reality thing or whatever. And like her excitement to you just saw, you saw what everybody imagines you would want with your partner. Like not only was she happy to see him, but she was, we start and she was telling him all this stuff and she's all excited. It's like, I love that. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, here's my best friend. Let me tell you what's happened, friend. Like
Yeah.
it was like yes, I would have like you would expect like the sappy reunion. Oh, I'm seeing you, but I love that they skipped that part because I'm pretty sure that happened as well. But it was just to the friend, like let me tell
Yeah.
you what's been going on and what we've
And
missed, and
and
like
he accepted it. Like
right,
he was a little bit like, okay, but he didn't question her story. He was like, that's kind of a lot to wrap my
right.
mind around, but that's what happened. Wow. Just that was cool to me that he didn't doubt for a second that she was telling him what really happened.
And so where I thought this was so many things. Number one, powerful and showed a good way of not only like communication with couples, but showed good for like just like black couples and just everything about the scene of them talking about this, right? And her telling him like, I shrank myself, right? And she started doing it before they even met. And I love the vulnerability of her opening up and talking to him. I love him accepting it and saying, okay, I was a little, I'm gonna be honest, I was a little perturbed on the, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, how she was like, well, that he shrunk her as well. Cause he was like, no, like when I met you, like I loved how your big ideas and how you were or whatever. And then he kind of backed down and accepted. He goes, well, but I kind of want to go do this or whatever. And so, yeah, I let you shrink because I'm just like, where I get that though, I'm just like, nobody. And when I was talking to my friend about it, I said, I used the Cat Williams quote. I was like, look, it's called self-esteem for a reason, right? Can't nobody give it to you. It's self-esteem. It's like I wanted her to. She was on this journey that I want to take more action of like you do not let anybody dim your light. Like you know what I'm saying? Like you're growing. And so you've come to that. Don't. I felt like she was also diminishing it again by then saying, and then you continue. It was like, no, like you were already dimming it. And then, yeah, like unintentionally. And I love the fact that he's her husband, he's her partner. He's accepts his role in it. Yes. But I was like, I don't know. I was just a little disturbed. I was like, don't let go of that hippolyta. Like you are. And of course it ends with her accepting it. But I'm like,
Yeah.
walk into it, right? Don't give that little bit back to say that anybody can do that. So anyway,
Like I see what you're saying because yes, I think when you're just speaking it, but I mean I personally lived it and I know and a lot of people have. I think it's this thing is like counseling 101. The way to accept somebody's truth because the reality is yes, we are our own beings and we are in charge of ourselves, but the fact that we are even here on this earth, we are social beings.
yeah,
So certain people we go into contract with, whether it's a friendship or a marriage, a date, whatever, when you go into contract with someone, even on a little bit of a base level, there's a little bit of, I want that person, I want to please that person.
right.
And you want to make sure that balance doesn't shift to where it's like 98% of me is what you want. Of course, you don't want it to be that, but
Right.
but we do it. We do it.
Yeah.
And other parts of our lives, shrink us to where we're like, oh, I'm too far gone to even deal with it. And it's too far gone. It's too far gone. So
Right.
I felt her all the way.
I did. And I just look, I love George's accepting of it. It wasn't a like, even the way, like the little pause they put in where he was like, he was kind of fighting it, then he stopped, then he thought about it, then he accepted it, and then he was like, no, you're right. I was like, man, if this ain't goals 101 for how you want your relationship to be, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, talk about stuff, be vulnerable with it, accept the other, like accept the other person's, like, if, push back where you can, but like hear the other person. It was just, I just thought that whole thing was beautiful. And it's probably just because I'm a big fan. Like, I love Uncle George. I didn't want to see him gone. So it was just happy to see them back together again. But I thought everything about that was beautiful and deep, right? That they covered in that aspect to show what a true, like, mature relationship was. And I kind of looked at it as they were, fast forwarding the scenes and they're going off and exploring stuff that whatever. And to me, I was like, a relationship connects throughout eternity, right? Because the other thing that and I didn't do this because I knew I would geek out and I would never go to sleep if I did this. So what I started noticing every time she was traveling somewhere, right? Look at the bottom of the screen. There was like these coordinates, right? But the coordinates were written in a way to where it was almost like a location and a time. Yeah. And so like time and location were kind of like this one thing, and it was just like a coordinates, like you're plotting on a map, which is what it looked like. But these beings or whatever she connected to had the ability to plot on a map, not just in one plane, but multiple planes. So they could access anything, right? So for people who are going to watch this, they're like, oh my God, what the hell is he talking about? But I really did want to look up and see like what kind of coordinates those were and stuff like that or whatever. But what I was noticing as they were going through these different scenes, like the coordinates kept changing. And so I kind of interpreted that as like she got a chance to experience a lifetime with him across these different realities of them kind of doing this all together, right? Because they showed us short scenes, but it was passage of time. And I was noticing there was a big gap between like the numbers.
It was 8s and then 5s.
Okay. I'm glad you picked it up. I purposely didn't look at the numbers. I saw them, but I didn't look at them because I knew I would miss something else because I would just be way too focused on them.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I won't be able to think about anything else.
That's why I just caught the first number so that I could see if there was a gap and a difference once she got to George. So it was like 8s, and then it was 5.
5s. Interesting. Okay. And okay, one more thing for this one. I'm gonna throw this out there. Like, so they get off when she's going with George. She's in this explorer outfit, right? I'm hoping we all caught the fact that this is the same outfit that Dee drew her in, right? So, okay, all right. Now here's the thing: Did Dee manifest that by connecting to that different reality? Does she have some kind of bridge to be able to see these different realities? And what she drew was something that was going to happen? Or did Hippolyta just manifest it because it's what Dee drew for her? So that's what now that she understands that she can name herself, right? And create her reality, is that what she created? Because that's what her daughter drew for her. Because that sums up with Dee. Dee is not.
Oh, the next episode is her.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I kind of have this feeling like Dee somehow, because of her drawings and all this, like somehow she has a connection to these realities.
Yeah.
And I think her visions are her basically connected to these different realities. And so she saw this manifestation of her mom before her mom did.
Well, and it's possible that she's not even, I think it's probable that she's not even aware of it. She gets these flashes of creativity. Right. She draws death on the map right where George and Tick and Letty are going. George dies, right? Like she is seeing a future that she's not aware of.
Wow, I'm so slow. I didn't even know that drawing was her drawing.
Yeah. She drew all the pictures on the map. She drew the travel comic each time.
Well, and I knew.
Yeah, so. But
well, this whole time. Well, that's why I was like, am I the only one that's sitting here like, can we just go ahead and George is his daddy? Because that's that's why Dee got powers, because she in the line too. I don't know.
No, because it's Tick's mom.
It's Tick's mom?
It's Tick's
mom that has the bloodline.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I really wish George would be Tick's daddy though, because I need him to release all that rage.
Well, and I think
he is.
Another clue for that is when Tick asked Montrose, "Did my mama know?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so it's like,
that was the arrangement.
Yeah,
yeah. I think that was the arrangement. I don't think it was a But you're right. I do. That's a good point. Like Tick does need to let go of his rage, because it's just like, I'm like, bro, like, let it go. But I guess I get it. The time, 1950s, all this stuff, whatever. So there's something else in there. She decides to come back. Well, she makes a decision to come back. We don't see her come back. Oh, here's the thing. So in the end, we see Tick pop out of the portal too.
Yeah.
So where did he go?
Right. So do you think that he went somewhere else, or did he go with Hippolyta and he was like observing, but just wasn't able to interact?
It seemed like he was borderline unaware that any time had passed. And I've only watched it the one time.
So maybe he was just like in a holding.
But it seemed like
Flash was them episodes.
in the of course. It I don't know. It seemed like for him, no time had passed.
Right.
He saw her. Yes, obviously the first cop got thrown in. He knows that portal went somewhere. And then she started getting pulled in. He went after her.
Well, listen, I guess the portal don't like white people either, because why did Tick get to come back? They don't like racists either. I was like, this is good. I was like, can y'all throw that other guy in there?
So, okay, look, my only gripe, because I'm just like, okay, Tick, you fighting with the dude, you throw one dude through there. And I'm like, why did you just pick up the dead body and throw him through there and clean up? Like, just real quick. But, like, one, I'm like, okay, I get it. In the moment, crazy stuff is happening. Would I have been that rational if all of a sudden the portal opened up? Probably not. But then, two, you also had to set up this whole thing with D, right? So the only reason they get to D is because they find the dead body in the comic book page with her name on it. So I was like, all right, cool. But still, like, oh, it's just...
Well, but then also, why were there more cop cars coming with sirens on at the, like, who told them that something was happening at the observatory?
Yeah, I wanted to go back and watch that because, like, I don't remember. Like, I remember her pulling up and then like walking up a hill, and then next thing she's in an observatory, and I felt like maybe I looked down, probably my phone or something like that, and I missed something because I was just like, okay, she's in this observatory. Like, how? If
that's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I saw, like, it seems like she was pretty deserted. So I'm like, where do these cops come from? Like, I just felt like that whole part just felt a little off. I was like, well, where did they come from, and how did they even know she was there?
But remember, isn't the cop guy like in the order? And so I feel like there's some secret crew that knows in some spots they know that these things exist too.
Yeah, because when the first two got there, they were talking about, they've been asked to keep an eye on the place, right? So like them showing up, it might be a stretch that it all happens at one time, but if you consider that there are forces outside of anybody's control kind of moving pieces, Letty knew that Hippolyta was in danger going to that spot, and she gets there and she works all her magic, hidden figure stuff, and then the cops show up. Then Tick gets there to save her because of Letty's warning. But then, like, why did all the other cops come flying with their sirens?
Because you're not listening to what I said. The main guy that took over that Christina is after is a cop.
Right. But
so he's probably got some minions looking after some of these spots.
But how did they know that something had gone bad in the observatory? They didn't call anybody on a walkie-talkie. They don't have cell phones. They don't
it is efficient, but look.
Yeah. I'm thinking when she activated it, something lit up somewhere.
Magic.
Magic.
No, magic.
But okay, but here's a good question though, because I didn't even think about it. Tick shows up. Tick was on his way to St. Louis. Where is she? Like
he's in Kansas, so one state over.
He got there.
I don't know how he got there because he didn't have a car, but he got there quick.
Because he left, like she drove off, and then him and Letty quickly split.
Right.
Magic.
Yeah, it's
right. Magic. We'll take it. Look, I look. If those are the only gripes I have with this entire show, I'm happy.
And they're also playing kind of fast and loose with the timeline, so we don't know exactly when Tick arrived in St. Louis. We know that it was nighttime, middle of the night, when Hippolyta got to the observatory.
We don't.
And nobody. Well, I should say nobody complained about Game of Thrones with travel, but yeah, they did.
Yeah, we did.
Just yeah.
So one thing that I thought was going to happen in this episode. So, all right, if we go back to, the chick, what's her name? Gia. There we go. So we go back to Gia's vision of Tick, right? There was a scene of him in a bus. And that scene when he gets to St. Louis looked a lot like her vision. So I thought like I was like, uh-oh, I thought something was gonna go there. And because they held that bus scene like a little too long.
Yeah, they did.
Or you know what I mean? I'm just
That the desk.
yeah. So I don't know. So I'm paying attention to that for the next episode. Although this next episode looks like it's all in Dee's episode, but I mean they put so much in these episodes. So I mean,
But you know what's been interesting? Since the haunted house episode, we really haven't had anything creepy. But Dee's episode was looking creepy.
yeah,
Little children looking creepy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it looked like there was almost a the Shining kind of feel to when they showed the little girls in the stockings in the hallway or whatever. And it's just, oh gosh, that's gonna be rough.
I just got chills thinking about it. And you know what? Like the first thing I saw when I saw the trailer was they showed the kids jumping rope, and we go back to this is just creepy to think about. We go back to why was Christina playing with those children like 2-3 episodes ago? Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Like she was just randomly playing with these children. She's like, oh, I've never played this or whatever. And I'm just like, then I'm thinking now I'm fast forwarding to her showing Ruby how this potion works, and these people have to be dead so she can do. I don't know. I think Christina gonna do something weird with these little kids, or has already done something and gonna put them on some kind of spells. Because she clearly was talking to Ruby about how like she's learned how to do all these things. Like, you know what? Christina might be the Cersei of this thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't trust her. Not a damn bit.
I think she is the big bad. Like there's focus on the cop, and we're supposed to feel all kinds of bad feelings towards him. And even Christina has bad feelings towards him because he's not really a member of the order and all this stuff, and he's trying to make these power moves. But I think she is up to her eyebrows in the.
You know what? Actually, she really might be. I could see them making like she's a Daenerys type of play, right? Meaning the fact that like she feels like she's on this righteous quest by any means necessary. So she will like I think she's gonna pull Ruby to her side. I think she says enough to where people are like, yeah, like this it should be like this, and it shouldn't just be all this powerful. But I think they're gonna paint this thing with her, which she's gonna get access to something, and now she's in this position of power where she's like, well, not only should everybody have access to it, like, but they should have access to it like I want them to. Like I'm now gonna, I can kind of see that coming with her. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't trust her. I don't trust her at all. I don't like her. I don't like her not one bit. I'm afraid for Tick though. I think that between the vision that Gia had, and then I think this anger thing, because it comes up a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like all this is going to consume him somehow.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's going to be like
fire in his dream.
Yeah. I think it's going to be like too much for him. And I don't know. I could see a path where at the end we lose Tick, and either if he never knows, or maybe he does at the very end, but like the continuation of it is the baby with Letty. But I have a feeling this thing takes.
Are you calling it that Tick is Ned Stark?
Yeah. Like I seriously, I think that what I'm kind of getting is that
season's over.
They're gonna find out. They're gonna find all this stuff at the end, right? They find the books. They have this big kind of battle, whatever. Tick doesn't make it out of it, and I could see them doing a season 2 where it's like they fast forward like some 15, 20 years. Letty's with their child and trying to keep the child from going down the same road, because like I said, she keeps saying like this stuff is like, I don't like the connection to stuff. This stuff is evil. I don't know. So I'm projecting a little bit, but
that's, what, let's put a little email into the writers. What, how all these episodes still connect to the history of racism?
Mm-hmm.
And when you said son and fast forwarding, would that not be the coolest thing ever if the next season was like 2020? Because all of the underlying stuff with racism, not much would change. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like the modern day side of this.
Like Ooh, like it's 2020 and now Tick and Letty are the ancestors.
Just
So
saying.
there's been a couple of generations of the see, Misha Green, you listening? What's up? We got you.
I
Got you.
know. Got you.
You know what I'm saying? 2020, let's get this season 2 started.
I'll be in the room where it happens.
So yeah, anyway,
Man, don't make me watch Hamilton tonight.
Our girls, that's the soundtrack for them to go to sleep every single
no
night.
lie.
Every one of them. They listen to
They
Hamilton.
listen to
every
anthems
night
to go to sleep.
on repeat to go to sleep.
I mean, you know, all for them. Huh?
Yeah, Zoe's all about it too.
We are those parents. Yes, they listen to every song.
I mean, it could be worse.
Exactly.
It could be like Baby Shark or something like that. I don't know.
We've been
yeah. We have t-shirts.
You have t-shirt. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Daddy, right. Mommy Shark, and Baby
Dancer Shark.
They say Dancer Shark actually. So anyway,
but I digress.
Okay, one last thing, and then I'll be done. So I want to go back to Josephine Baker, right, and that whole scene. I just loved it. I feel like, and I could be wrong in this, but I just feel like Josephine Baker is not talked about a whole lot. Like, and I thought it was interesting that that she chose Josephine Baker, and I just love the scene that they created and the time that she spent there, and just the symbolism of just like a free, being a free woman, right? That was all in the scene or whatever, which you could say like represented Josephine Baker, a lot. I think she challenged, and in her time was challenged a lot of what people thought was normal for a woman to be, right? Like, and I thought they did excellent casting job on the woman that played her, because I was like,
yeah,
wow, like I kind of wanted to low key is like, are they related? Like, I just
yeah, right. Yeah, great.
So, what did you any thoughts on that, on the Josephine Baker just kind of run in the scenes?
Well, I thought it was kind of long, so I was like, why so long if in that particular realm?
Right.
But like you just said, I mean, Hippolyta's whole thing was shrinking, and that, and Josephine was being who she was right then and there,
right,
unapologetically, even amongst all of the, like, even though it wasn't wanted.
Right.
So maybe she spent a lot of time there because she needed to be buoyed up by Josephine doing that right then to be able to handle the other realms.
Yeah, she couldn't have done anything that she did if she hadn't gotten in that mental space of the catharsis that she hits in that last conversation. Just the realizations of her anger and all of the things that she talks about there, right before she says that she's ready to go.
Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking about. Okay, so we've got all the references to the Count of Monte Cristo, Alexander Dumas, French black author, Josephine Baker, dancing and singing in Paris. I think about James Baldwin, and he spent most of his adult life in France. Like so many incredible black people that when things got too crazy and too dangerous in America, ended up heading to France or spending at least a chunk of their life there. And just, I need to look at France a little bit more. I know that like France never really had colonies during the transatlantic slave trade, where they were not extremely wrapped up in the slave trade. And I wonder, it just kind of, my gears are turning about what is the connection? Is that enough of a connection with France to explain why Black American expatriates would end up in France, or is there something else to it? Just that history all of a sudden is really interesting to me.
So yeah, some quick notes on that. Like I know that it was part of that time where like the French were just seen as this, very, open, and still had a lot of the, at the time, older ways of thinking around just independent thought and thinking. And that's kind of where people went. But two, look, history is not kind to anybody. Everybody has their dirty, like French is some really fucked up shit to Haiti. So there's some, while I don't remember, like, anyway, you'll find it, Jeremy, when you research it. But basically, the French had colonized Haiti, and then in order for Haiti to get out of it, the French was like, okay, we'll let you out, but you have to pay for all. When the revolution happened in Haiti, then the French were like, well, you need to pay for everything that you destroyed for the property, these people's lives, and basically had them sign some crazy contract paying all these reparations back to France for like hundreds of years. So France has got some shit too, but it's one of those things, like France is like, it's one of those places where like they have that, but then it's like if you were there in French, like they were like, oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. So it's crazy stuff or whatever. So but yeah, let me know what you find, like if you do research, and I'll do some little research on that too, as whatever. Because I thought you were going somewhere. I thought, like, we're gonna start a revolution. We're gonna have all the Black people go to France. Because I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm looking for places. I've already hit up Canada. I'm looking at Australia. Like, hey, what's up? French in high school, like we.
I thought that's where it was going too.
But like you said, like everywhere has their demons, and the France and Vietnam, France and North Africa, France, carving up the Middle East after World War I.
But regardless of all of that, there's been a French connection throughout this show. Yeah. But I honestly don't think, like, sometimes when we go into that part of it, we don't have shows that drop our history in there, right? And not that France is our history, but I just think that some of this stuff is just, we've been watching TV for years, guys, and everybody else's stuff has been there, and we're just going to drop some history in here as we go along, because folks, knowledge is power. So.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to wrap that one up.
All right.
Good.
Great episode. Thanks, everybody. Say what? I'll be like 3. Right?
10.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself after that. Luckily, I got football, but.
One more thought.
Jeremy.
No, it's quick. So remember in the haunted house episode, the Holy Ghost, where they mentioned there were the mentions of the Chicago riots over Black people moving into white neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
And the Cicero riot was talked about indirectly, and then at the beginning of
Tick's visit.
No, Ruby's episode. When she's transforming sorry, there was another direct mention of Cicero, and I believe it was Ruby's episode. And it just it jumped out at me because I rewatched a couple of them over the weekend, and it jumped out at me in the face that, Cicero was mentioned again. Keep an eye on that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think I'm gonna do a mini binge the next couple of days and kind of like start from the beginning.
Yeah.
And like watch some of these all the way through. I mean, it's a lot of episodes and they're all about an hour, so I don't know if I can get them all done, but I think I'll try and do that by the time we have our next show, because I think it helps with stuff like this that you can kind of see the whole story told out. So anyway, for all of our watchers who probably didn't watch tonight because we didn't do it when we were supposed to, that's my fault. But they will hit us up later. We love y'all. Keep the comments coming, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye, y'all.